Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the second week of Desert Depression Podcast. If you missed the first week, last week, I talked to my friend Jason about being in Jordan. And he had some really good points and some interesting perspectives on being across the country. Um, in somewhere foreign to what you're familiar with. Uh, Something else I noticed, I was looking back, doing recording, post production, and looking at the audio. I said like a lot. I even put it in the title because I was like, it's so prominent. It's ridiculous. I used it in every sentence. And I don't remember where this came. Well, I remember that it came from a teacher, a specific teacher in high school, but she explained to us the reason not to use like so much, why it is a negative, but I don't even remember why. I heard that on the recording and I got so self-conscious. I was like, "Oh my gosh." And all week I've been like noticing myself using it. And I've been like stopping myself and it's just weird. It's just really weird. So I'm going to try my best not to use it that much in this. And what I kind of want to do is tally every time I use the word like out of context, obviously. If it's you know, if it's out of context and it's just using it for a filler, I want to tally. I want to see if I can actually catch it, and then I'm gonna go obviously in editing and see if I was right if I use it. So yeah, but yeah, let's just get into it today. I was actually having an interesting conversation with my sister the other day. She was complaining that someone had shared something on social media, and it was just something she outright knew was wrong. Factual wise, um, she right away recognized, she's like, what this person shared was ridiculous. She even like clicked on the article and blah blah blah, and she was venting to me. But I really I see this a lot, and it really bothers me that a lot of people do this. They'll just read a name of an article and just share it. They'll be like, "Yep, like this supports everything I think." And it's everybody. A lot of people do this. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. It's just different articles, different views, everything. So many people do this today. And like even sometimes they'll read the article and still share it. And there's a lot of things you can do to prevent this from, not only embarrassing yourself, but just spreading false, articles that don't have very good facts or evidence or anything. And I have one here. What I did was I was just looking at news articles. Uh, I just literally went on a news website and just kept scrolling till I found till I found a good example, and I found one right away. I mean, this was only about 10 articles down on the main page of this news website, and the title is "Ancient Tomb of Santa Claus Discovered Beneath Turkish Church." And right away I was like, "Oh, this is gold." I mean, I don't know. It doesn't matter what your opinion is on Santa Claus or anything. It's just like if you click on this, there's a lot of red flags. Well, first of all, something about this too is it's 100% media agenda setting, because right under the title is a picture of this tomb, but the caption of the picture says Turkish experts claim that was believed to be the original grave of Saint Nicholas. Pictured was in fact the grave of an anonymous priest. They now believe that his undamaged grave was discovered in St. Nicholas Church in Demre, Turkey. So it says ancient tomb of Santa Claus discovered. Then right under it says Turkish experts claim this is an anonymous priest, right? And then also something you can do is click on the editor, the person who wrote the article. And you click on this guy's name, and he actually has pretty decent articles. Stuff about the Las Vegas shooting, Israel problems, a lot of Las Vegas stuff actually, Bernie Sanders stuff, Trump stuff. Oh, actually a lot of archaeological stuff too. So I would say he's pretty credible. But also it's just so random and out of the ordinary for him, like his from what he usually posts. that maybe he just like was having a rough week or something, you know, and he couldn't find material. He's just like, oh my gosh. You know, and he like found this and he's like, oh, perfect. Like a media agenda set, put this crazy title. Um, and then, yeah. And then and if you read the article, it goes to explain like they went and like all these people, it explains the background of St. Nicholas, and all these people thought it was, actually not even that many people besides the ones who found it really thought that this was St. Nicholas. Yeah, and then they export the remains abroad, and then you know Turkish experts are like, no, dude, that was just some random priest. What do you mean? So, you know, just be mindful of what you share and really pay attention to that. That's pretty. I see that a lot. It's a huge thing. But yeah, so today we're gonna have Annmarie on the podcast. She's a good friend of mine. If you didn't listen last week, she lives in Richmond. And kind of what we're going to talk about is all the protests going on in Richmond because she attends them. She's super credible in it. She's done all her research, and you know she has the right to be there just like everybody else, and she's there for a reason. So I'm gonna go ahead and give her a call now. And we're gonna go ahead and talk to her about it. Okay, yeah. Hey, Emery, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. Let me pull up the questions I sent you, and then we can get to
Sure,
it.
sounds good.
How was your day?
Good, busy, but good.
Busy as usual.
As usual, pretty much.
Hey, so not to throw you a curveball, but I mean, you did text me earlier, and something interesting that we were going to talk about anyway. You witnessed sort of like a protest situation on your way to class this morning too.
I did, yeah. So there's this one guy who goes to my school, and he is repeatedly out in the compass, which is just this circular midsection of campus where everyone has to pass through.
Right.
And he holds up signs that are very controversial, very just negative, day after day. And today, he was holding up a sign that said, "Guns don't kill people. Idiots with I forget how he worded it. He was like, idiots with orders do." And of
Oh my
course,
gosh.
after something as tragic as the largest mass shooting we've ever seen, people's emotions are really high.
Right.
And I go to a very liberal school, so most people are in favor of reviewing gun rights and having that discussion. And so a lot of students approached him, and it basically turned into a riot that went on for quite a few hours. There were police officers there. I couldn't actually go and see what was going on because I was literally ducking into my class with 2 minutes to spare. But
Mm-hmm.
that's the gist of it that I got.
Yeah. I mean, that's just insane. And like, yeah. And you texted me, I was like, wow. And it's just ironic because, you know, or coincidental because now we're talking about this. And
Right, we're having this conversation. Right, yeah.
so, with you already having a little introduction of your day to protesting, can you give an insight to what's going on with the monuments currently in Richmond?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, kind of plain and simple, there's just a really emotional feud going on between, this group of people who want to take down statues of Confederate soldiers because of the implications that they have, and people who really want to preserve them because they claim for the history behind them. And that's just kind of putting it into a one sentence deal, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, and you know, something interesting about that too. It does apply to what I talked about last week. But, you know, symbols mean a lot of different things to different people.
Hmm.
And just something that happened to me in the past. You know, whatever you think, whatever your opinion is,
Hmm.
I was at a campsite one time with family members and like all their friends and stuff. It was a big gathering. And we
Hmm.
passed a like building, and it had a Confederate flag in the window, and it brought up the
Hmm.
discussion because it was actually one of the first times that things were being taken down, and they were talking about like the Confederate flag being up at like Capitol buildings and stuff. Excuse me. And
Hmm.
so it was a group. It was all white people, And they were all talking about it. They were having a discussion, and I got bothered because they were saying, it's just a thing of history. That's what it means and
Mhm.
everything. And they said they shouldn't be taken down. But then we walked over
Right.
about like 10 feet and these are people who know each other. These are people who are friends. And we walked over 10 feet to, it was a couple, some of their friends, and the husband is black. And we asked him, we're like, well, what, like, we told him, we're having this discussion over there. And we're like, what do you think, And he
Mhm.
said,
Mhm.
when I look at those things, when I see those symbols, I feel like a past of hatred. Like I feel like
Mhm.
I'm unwanted, and it's
Mhm.
bothersome. Like I can't look at that and not have those emotions because of the past that it holds.
Mhm.
Like the symbolism that it holds. It's not just it's not just a flag. It doesn't matter the history of it is the problem, right? So
Right. Right. Totally.
it's just interesting that like especially where you are in the South, you get such a
Mhm.
clash of ideas and beliefs because it's like
Absolutely.
almost entirely two separate sides are raised completely different and just grow up in a completely different world. um
For sure. And I think that's one of the reasons that tensions are so high here because there are such opposing sides. There's no gray area. There are people who are really passionate about each viewpoint.
right, right. Yeah, it's a tough situation. It's all tough all around right now. But so let's talk about what it means to you as an individual. As your own person. What do you think your purpose is
Mhm.
for you being there at the protest and everything? Like what do you think it accomplishes as an individual?
Sure. I mean, for me, it's really honestly just about equality and promoting that concretely with the removal of these statues. It would be a huge step. Um, I've been faced with the argument of history or heritage, not hate. Especially in regards to the Confederate flag, and I was faced with that argument a few weeks ago when I was actually like arguing face to face with a neo-Nazi, and this
Yeah.
guy was saying like, "Why are you trying to erase history?" Blah blah blah. And I think a lot of times people miss the point. And for me, and for a lot of people like me, it's not about erasing the past. It's about putting our best foot forward for the future. And
Ooh, I like that.
you can claim history with these statues if you want to, but they were commemorated after the war, not as a way to like uplift and rally the South, but as a way to be like, hey, black people, stay in your place. And to
Yeah.
me, that is horrendous. And it's the connotation that that elicits and the context in which these statues were really initiated that makes it such a strong racial issue. People are. I've also heard the argument of like, why do you even care now? Like these guys aren't alive. Like blah blah blah. Like there's nothing like this going on. There's not going to be another war. Like whatever. Like I don't know. And I just think that's ridiculous. If we remove these guys from our streets, it's a symbol of rejecting these white supremacist ideals. And I think that is just so important. I mean, it's 2017. I have no clue why they're still up.
Yeah. I mean, and the crazy thing about it all is something that's happening today is kind of go along with what you were saying. Today is, the day, like right now is the time to take a step forward. We're
Mhm.
having such a huge clash because we've got
Mhm.
momentum, we've got progress,
Mhm.
but I think the big part now is the next step is white people giving up their superiority and their
Mhm.
privilege. And even for someone who
Right.
like is okay, isn't racist and like has like open beliefs, that's still probably hard. Like
Mhm.
there's a lot of things day to day that white people don't think about that really put
Yeah.
them above with privilege. And that's hard to give up for like someone who can't see like these people deserve just as much as me because we're all humans. That's what it comes down to. And that's going to be a hard step for everybody like in unison to be like, yep, like no,
Mhm.
we give up. Like, our privilege
Mhm.
is not worth more than these other humans' lives. But
Exactly. Yeah.
it's just I don't know like if it what it takes to get everybody in unison to think that way.
And it's so hard because if you're not a person of color, or if you don't have friends who are people of color, it's hard to understand why these statues mean so much. Um, But it's like you were saying before about how symbols mean something different to everyone. And if there are symbols that are, and my issue with it too is that these guys are up on their horses. They have swords and they're, sitting proudly. It's not anything to justly put them in the light that they should be put in. We're uplifting these ideals, and that is what's wrong about it with me. It's not that we're remembering these guys like, yes, they're part of history. I don't want to erase that, but it's the fact that we're uplifting them, and I don't know what we're protecting by leaving them up.
Yeah. I mean, having them around just keeps us in the past, really. You have them up on these big
Right.
statues and having them as idols. That's not the
Mhm.
leadership and people we need to look up to right now.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. It's just all insane. So okay, let's go to the next question then, since it's getting deep. What is the craziest thing? Because I already it may be what you told me, but I wrote my paper on one of your instances. But what is the
Right.
craziest thing you've seen at a protest?
So this was a hard question. I had to narrow it down to two. I hope that's cool.
Oh, totally. Yep.
So I think the first craziest instance that I've seen, um, from my first real march in regards to the monuments, and it was following a vigil that we had here in Richmond, um, basically where it was a candlelit vigil, and people who were actually at Charlottesville when everything went down got up and kind of spoke about what they saw and how they're feeling, and it was just a safe space for really the community to just comfort those souls, and it was really beautiful. And then we ended up hearing like confirmation of CSA getting a permit to come here to Richmond, which was later denied. But at the time, we had like just gotten concrete affirmation of that. And the leader of the organization who put the vigil together was like, guys, do you want to march to the Lee Monument tonight? And of course, everyone was like, yeah, let's do that. So we marched probably like a mile or so to the Lee Monument. And when we got there, there were already police everywhere. I mean, like more police than I've ever seen myself in one area. We're in riot gear, ready to pretty much take us down.
Wow.
And so, we were like, okay, fine. Like, there are monuments all along this road. We don't have to go to the Lee Monument. So we ended up marching to the Jeb Stuart. And the point is that this guy, he, like, took his shirt off. He had an Antifa flag. I think it was Antifa related. I know it was, anti-white supremacy,
Right.
ideally, whatever. I couldn't read it. It was on the other side. But he climbed the Jeb Stuart monument, like scaled the side of it, mounted himself up, put the flag through the legs of the horse, jumps back down. And the crazy part to me, like, yeah, that act is crazy too. But when he got down, I was in the group that was covering him. This guy gave him the shirt off his back. When he climbed on the statue, his face was covered, everything like that. Identity was concealed. When he jumped down, there were so many of us able to cover him that he put his shirt back on. And then when he was like ready to go, everyone just got up and started walking like nothing happened. And the police couldn't arrest a soul because of the just like humanity of it. We like that act to me was really powerful.
Yeah, what great imagery. That's just awesome. Like
Right.
that's chills. Like thinking about that happening, I felt like I was there. That's insane.
Yeah, it was incredible. And, I felt really honored to be there and be a part of it. And, the whole time you're at a protest, you feel this kind of like deep inkling of fear because you're like standing up for something. But in that moment, I felt so protected. And just by the people around me who were strangers. I didn't know a
Wow.
single soul other than my best friend Rachel, who I brought. But other than that, I didn't know anyone there. But everyone just came together and unified holistically. It was pretty gorgeous.
Yeah, that's just beautiful imagery, and that's awesome that you felt that way just with strangers. And that's the idea, you're with all these people, and you're
Hmm.
all there for the same reason. So why not bond and
Right.
act as brothers and sisters like you should? Like that's awesome.
absolutely. It was one of those instances where it really felt like everyone was coming together. So yeah, that was my first craziest moment that I could think of. But the second one is from the second protest that was more recent, and it was when CSA came without a permit, and basically they were just wildly outnumbered. So after the march, everything kind of dwindled down. But it was really interesting because it broke off into these small groups along the median of Monument Ave, which is just like all this grass and it's really pretty and whatever. So people were like with their signs, with their groups of people just sitting, and there were neo-Nazis and local Confederates who came out, and there was like little groups of dialogue going on all up and down Monument Ave, right near the Lee Monument. And the crazy part is when I stumbled upon these groups, I heard my friend Dylan was like, Annmarie, you have to come over here and see this. And there was a person of color who was a Confederate, like part of the Confederate association here in Richmond.
Yeah.
And he was arguing in favor of the statues, which to me was a really different perspective and pretty disturbing, to be honest, because of many reasons of this person's character. So there was a long conversation, probably about 45 minutes, and I got there before he, or after he had been going for a while. And you know, his conversation started out with him arguing about preserving history and the fact that he's a Virginian and loves living here and loves Virginia pride and blah blah blah, and you know, all that's good and well, but the conversation really got out of hand, and he ended up talking about the words literally came out of his mouth, I hate all Muslims. And then he offered no explanation.
Wow.
And then following this, of course, everyone is getting upset. Everyone's, you know, trying to get him to at least like explain what his reasoning is, because everyone knows he doesn't have a reason. And at this point, he proceeds to pull out a knife on the crowd. And
oh my gosh.
You know, that's not allowed. It's a little crazy, the rules for protests here, that they made sure everyone knew. The chief of police made an address before this protest was supposed to happen. You're not allowed to have weaponry. You're not allowed to carry a bat. You're not allowed to carry anything indicating weaponry, or you'll be arrested immediately. You can open carry. Firearms are fine, but, you know, anything else. And this guy was making sure we knew that he had a firearm on him too. But he pulls out this knife, and at which point everyone freaks out, and like that was one of the more scary moments of protesting as well, because it ended up dwindling down because Rachel and I actually grabbed an officer close by, and he got scared by the fact that we just were going over to talk to the police, and he fled. So whatever, it didn't amount to anything, but that just seeing that the conversation got to a point where he felt like he needed to demonstrate that he had more than one piece of weaponry on his person was pretty terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, what? And you said he was open carrying too?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
he like had it on a holster on his hip and like would point to it when he made certain points and things like that. He made sure we knew that.
I mean, that's just insane. Like, what point? You're just trying to have a discussion, you know? What point do you pull out a knife on some people? I mean, that's insane. And
I mean, his points were grossly uneducated, and you know, as were a lot of the neo-Nazis or Confederates that were arguing there, which is why the protest was actually such a success for like the defenders.
Right.
But yeah.
You said earlier, you said CSA, I think. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about that? Just, I don't know what that is, and some people listening may not.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I don't know a ton about it, but it is the Confederate States of America.
Oh, okay.
Or, I'm pretty sure, or association or something, something of that to that point. And they're an organization who feel very strongly. I'm pretty sure they were associated with Charlottesville. I'm not positive, but I assume they were. And they planned to come here, and it was actually pretty funny. They showed up with like a really small number of people, and Richmonders made up for like hundreds and
Oh
just
yeah.
wildly outnumbered them. So they all pretty much went home with their tail between their legs.
Right. I mean, I'm not surprised. Richmond is very blossoming in the liberal world right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what you were saying with you guys, the defenders, like you guys winning that sort of that
Mhm.
protest, that brings me to my
Mhm.
next point. Do you see progress being made from your stance, from the defenders'
Right.
point?
It's really hard to see concrete progress when you're doing protesting, which is why one of the reasons like it's so frustrating. But cool thing with this whole monument deal, our mayor currently of Richmond went into office with the ideals of, okay, the monuments are going to stay, but we're going to put plaques up to like correctly put these guys in the light that they're supposed to be in.
Mm.
So after Charlottesville and after the protest, the first protest that I talked about from, the guy that put the flag on the Jeb Stuart statue, after those two events, he came out with a statement about his Monument Avenue Commission and about its expanding its scope so it can pretty much consider the value in either removing these statues or relocating them. And, having that immediate kind of local government initiation is so rewarding because it's so important. And even just the fact that he said, okay, let's talk about it is so valuable. And I think the dialogue is something that's really productive and something that has, or that I do see as progress because, after that person of color who pulled out the knife on us, after he left that small scene, it broke out in even smaller groups, and that's when I was arguing with a neo-Nazi, and my good friend Dylan was doing the same with a Confederate, and there were these really cool small dialogues going on. And the fact that we're all just talking about it is progress to me. The
Oh
fact that
yeah.
we're not just passing by these monuments, accepting them for what they are, but the fact that, Heather Heyer didn't die in vain, the fact that any of the lives that were taken from Charlottesville didn't die in vain, the fact that it's sparking this huge of a movement to me is really valuable.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, that means the world because not long ago, no one was saying anything and no one was there, so that
Right.
makes perfect
And
sense.
almost no one knows that, like, these monuments have been protested from the day of their initiation. Of course, it died out up until recently, but,
Right.
that conversation is so important because it needs to be revisited, and it's wrong,
Yeah.
quite frankly.
Right. Well, but that's good though. I mean, that's hopeful. To someone
For
who's
sure.
not there. I mean, that makes me happy about it at least, because I do get concerned. I have you and other people. I have friends there, and sometimes that
Hmm.
stuff does get out of hand, and that's concerning. Like for your guys' safety, as someone who knows you guys,
Right.
and so it is good to know like it
Absolutely.
is doing something, and it definitely you serve a purpose being there. Well, I would totally agree with you.
Mhm.
I think it's awesome.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay, well, I guess let's actually that was really good. That took up a good amount of time. So I guess we'll just jump to the article I'm gonna throw you. Um, we'll just get off the monument thing. Um,
Cool.
so this article, I texted you earlier, and I think it's really cool, and I think you'll really like it. But so this article is talking about how women in India get used to, at least it's not as present today, but still in some
Mhm.
situations they're forced to get tattooed. And
Hmm.
this is for various reasons, such as marriage, and they can be young as 14 getting married, and then they get this tattoo on their
Mhm.
wrist or wherever, and it's almost like slave property. It's saying you are
Right.
married to this man. And they even go into the article and say, in previous years, that's how they marked their slaves there. So it is really
Mhm.
saying, marking these women as property.
Right.
But it also goes into how even some women will get tattoos on very open and obvious areas such as their faces to reduce
Oh wow.
chances of sexual assault, to like make them ugly, I guess you would say, depending
Mhm.
on your opinion.
Mhm.
But yeah, I thought it was really interesting because I know you really do like tattoos and stuff.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, absolutely. I did a final paper on feminism and tattoos, and that's a really interesting perspective that I haven't really heard before. Because the act of being forced to get them is something that changes what it means, and it honestly goes back to what we were talking about earlier with like symbols meaning something different to everyone.
yeah,
So that symbol of getting a tattoo to women in that culture is it's branding, you know. Um,
yeah, 100%. That's
but
actually
to
the title of the article.
yeah, that's honestly like that's kind of sad because tattoos can be so liberating and so individualistic. That almost like breaks my heart a little bit.
I'm sorry.
but
Yeah.
but that's super interesting. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and like you were saying, it is it's it's labeling them as someone else's property, and the thing is, it was taking a specific encounter of a
Mhm.
mother. She's very elderly, and she has a daughter, mid 20s, I think, and
Mhm.
she has these tattoos on her wrist from when she was 14 years old. She got married and had these tattoos. They're kind of faded now, but she doesn't know. She doesn't know what they are. She doesn't even know what they mean. Um,
Wow.
and she doesn't like. She has an idea of what they might mean, but she really doesn't know. And
Mhm.
so, even since it has no meaning too, she can't look at it and think of it as anything else. She has to look at it and think
Mhm.
of the like traumatic experience of being branded. Because back then, also,
Mhm.
that long ago, tattoos weren't a needle gun. It was like stick and poke
Right.
is a much more is different experience, probably much more painful. And they also, it talks about how they didn't have painkillers or anything. So um,
Yeah. Absolutely.
lots of cases of infection and etc.
Mhm. I mean, I can't imagine having something on my body that number one I didn't choose, and that number two meant I was someone's property even after the fact. Being reminded of that, like that is something I can't even fathom. Being having a scar like that, just literally reminding you that you were that degraded at one point.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's yeah, it's really heartbreaking. And also, well, they do get into how, like, there's a picture of the mother next to the daughter, and the daughter does
Mhm.
have these tattoos on her face and on her arms and stuff. Because it also,
Mhm.
the modern day India, it's changed a lot, and they are
For
starting to
sure.
have it as like a culture thing, and as
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
self expression. So
Mhm.
it is becoming more of like how we perceive tattoos in America, but still like pretty insane that not that long ago. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. That is crazy that we're just taking those strides as a world.
yeah, no, it's yeah, it's interesting too because I know there actually is a lot of country. Actually, I think well, this takes place specifically in Delhi. Um,
Mhm.
And there are other places I know of where tattoos go back generations, like long time ago, and
Mhm.
but they're
Mhm.
pretty interesting. They actually are very like cool looking, and it's the
Mhm.
stick and poke kind of stuff. But these people will be covered in tattoos from head to toe, and I always thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Um, I know.
Yeah, and a lot of it has cultural significance. I For that paper I did a lot of research on it, and it could be like a form of celebration or a symbol of your status. So like the more tattoos you have in some cultures, the higher ranked you are in society, which to me is pretty cool. Just
Yeah,
because I like tattoos.
yeah. Everybody
um,
in Richmond would be
yeah,
super high status.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Okay. Well, cool. I guess we're just gonna wrap it up then now. But yeah, thanks so much for being on the podcast, Annmarie. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah, I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right, that sounds good.
All right.
Thanks, Devin.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys. So, there you have it. Someone's perspective on the monument situation right now in Richmond, who is actually there. Yeah, and that tattoo thing's pretty crazy. Annmarie actually designed a tattoo for me. I haven't gotten it yet because, money and stuff. But yeah, that's really interesting. I like keep looking at this article and losing my train of thought because it's so interesting. I would actually really like to study that stuff. Okay, guys, but I think I'm actually not gonna do a third segment today. I think I'm just gonna wrap it up. That was really good discussion with Emery, but it's pretty long, and I'm feeling like slightly under the weather. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up. But if you guys didn't listen last week, again, go ahead, take a listen. Follow me on Instagram at FDS Podcast. Send me a DM or anything if you have any questions or comments. But thanks so much for listening this week, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.